Great. Thank you so much. We're so excited that you're going to join us for the next hour as we share some strategies for quickly transitioning our courses and our student learning to digital tools and resources so that we can really impact continuity of authentic learning for the rest of the semester. Whether we're doing this for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or through the rest of the semester online, our most important goal is that our students continue to learn. So Jen and I are excited to be here with you for this next hour and share some ideas, things that we're doing in our classes, things that might be great resources for you, and share some actual links that you can go to at the end to get additional resources for your class. So you can see the picture of me. This was pre-suspension of face-to-face classes, and the bottom picture on the left was literally the next day after I had chewed off all my nails and realized I needed to move all of my classes and help my colleagues at Ashland University as the director of our Center for Teaching move their classes to online learning. And I stole this picture off of Jen's Facebook page because, you know, I was thinking, how are we going to keep our students caught up on their learning during this time? So Jen, I'm just curious, what went through your mind when you found out that your district was going to be moving all instructions to digital tools?
When I thought we were moving to digital tools, I just immediately thought resources. Oh, I'm going to need some resources and sharpen my technology skills.
Excellent. I think so many teachers are thinking that same thing, because the reality is the development of really solid online curriculum takes months and months and months to do. In conjunction with instructional technologists and instructional designers and robust learning management systems. So if we had a whole summer to get an online curriculum together, we could develop something really, really fabulous, really focusing on the standards. In this environment, what we're really looking at is what is possible, having realistic expectations. What can I do over the course of the next 4 weeks to impact student learning and continue the learning process along? So I want to capitalize on what has already been created, what I've already created, the tools that I know. I don't want to overwhelm my students or my parents with so many new learning resources, but keeping in mind that I have to be kind to myself and my students and my colleagues and know there are key things that students need to continue to focus on as we go throughout the semester. So what we want to do in this webinar is focus on several key strategies. So we want to start out and talk about communication and the value and importance of communication in this move to digital learning and in this time of academic disruption as a nation. We want to look at synchronous and asynchronous methods to deliver the content, looking at what resources are available to support us in this. And then we want to look at assessment. How are we going to assess what students are learning and knowing? I had to share this kind of funny slide on some of the social media tweets that have been coming out this week. They're all funny. I love this one. So true. Teachers deserve to make $1 million a year or a week for all of the hard work they're doing in the classroom. I think the funniest ones is one of my friends sent me one that said, I saw my neighbor walk out of her classroom. She has a son that is in 5th grade with a chisel and start scraping the sticker off the back of her minivan that says, my son is an excellent student at XYZ elementary school. So I think it's kind of been a harsh dose of reality for what happens inside the classroom and how difficult it is to emulate that communication and connection outside of the classroom. But really, it boils down to what you see at the bottom right hand of your corner. And this is, it's not an easy transition for anyone. It's not an easy transition for us to make as educators. It's not an easy transition for our accrediting boards to make, to look at what standards we really have to focus on. It's not an easy transition for our children who are missing those kind of real collaboration and connections that they get in the classroom environment. It's not an easy transition for our parents. So knowing that we are all in this together as a country, we are doing our best to slow the spread of COVID-19 and this pandemic by staying home and continuing to focus on the things that really matter. So one of my favorite academic books is Learner-Centered Teaching by Mary Ellen Weimer. And I really love this book because it focuses on what is the role of the teacher in the classroom and what is the role of the student. And obviously the role of the student is to learn and to be an active part of the learning process. The role of the teacher doesn't change, whether it's in an online environment or a face-to-face environment or a flipped classroom where they're doing lectures outside and face-to-face activities inside. Our role is the same. It's to encourage collaboration. It's to develop environments where learning can take place. It's to provide the right resources and support for our students to create a learning agenda that we all understand together. So regardless of the modality, what we do doesn't change. How we do it might change, but our goal as educators doesn't change. And I have to say there's one other big elephant in the room with this, and especially for our students in high school, and I think for all of our students, but especially for our students in high school, those seniors, they're really kind of going through this true, authentic period of mourning and sadness. They're missing out on a lot of the things that they looked forward to their whole K-12 experience, you know, proms and recitals and plays and opportunities to connect together as they end this one chapter of their life and they begin this next. So our role in this kind of collaboration support becomes even more important to those students. The learning is still key. There are still key things they need to focus on before they graduate, but being that kind of support system, that sounding board, giving them as close as we can to those authentic opportunities to connect to each other and the space to grieve this kind of personal loss that's very real. This is their paradigm. This is what they know right now. So I love this book. The link to it at the bottom, the information, if you want to get a copy yourself, it is just a phenomenal resource about how we focus on the learners in these kinds of periods of disruption. So that said, I want to start with 6 strategies for ways that we can communicate during this time of disruption that will help impact our ability to meet the standards and to connect in meaningful ways with our students and their parents. So the very first suggestion that I would give you is to connect immediately and as soon as possible to reassure your students. This is temporary. We are going to work together. I am here to help you succeed in meaningful ways, whether it's you are a parent of a K to 3rd grade student and you're going to have to do more of that support at home, or you're a high school student and you're going to be working more independently while also addressing all of these other key issues like taking AP tests or ACT exams or preparing your college applications or scholarship applications. So one suggestion I would give you in this communicate is to communicate as quickly as possible and to communicate in the same way from now until this disruption is over. So if you have a learning management system, for example, Google Classroom, or maybe you use Canvas, or maybe you use Schoology, whatever that system is that you're going to be delivering the content, always do it the same way. I tell my students you can expect an email announcement from me on Sunday night, you can expect another one on Tuesday, and another one on Friday. And I always send those out through the exact same source so they know where to go, both where they can go and look at my past announcements to them, my past emails. And also the benefit of using the same tool is that it preserves those kinds of educational records of connection and communication. And that may be very critical in the future as different organizations look and say, what did you do as a school district to support your students and parents during this time? Jen, I'm curious if you could share, what did you do when you found out, how did you communicate with your parents or students when you found out that this period of academic disruption was going to happen?
Well, I went back to right away thinking, oh no, we have to communicate and how important it is. So I go back into my Google Classroom. That was my first resource to reach out to kids, posting a video, checking on them, and sending parents text on remind them to have their child check our Google Classrooms that were established throughout the school year.
Excellent. Great. Well, you know, I'll tell you, I have a daughter that's a senior in high school. I know you're shocked because I look so young, right? But I have a daughter that's a senior in high school, and I got a video email from the superintendent. We get one every single Monday from the superintendent of our district as a parent, and we get an email, a video email every single Monday from the principal of the high school. And for me as a parent, obviously my teachers are also communicating with me, but just knowing what's going on, what they're thinking, what's happening with graduation, and all of those other key things is relieving a lot of my anxiety as a parent as well. So be consistent with our communication, use the same way, and if you have a resource like a learning management system, consider using that. The second piece of advice I give is to communicate frequently and with robustness, as in your students are used to seeing your presence in class every day. It offers stability to their learning. So continue to offer the same kind of stability and consistency in the way that you interact with them. If you can create video messages, those are so powerful because they see you again, you're still there, you're okay, this is the person that I can trust, this is the person that I know. I'm gonna show you really quick how to use a free tool to create some video messages in a few minutes in this webinar. But again, use whatever your learning management system is, Google Classroom, Canvas, if your district is telling you to use the Remind Me app, whatever it is, consistently use that. Post announcement, provide updates, provide overviews of projects or assignments. And if you can provide those in multiple formats, in writing and via a video, all the better. Use your telephone, call students that aren't logging in, call their parents, set up individual meetings with students and parents via the telephone or via video chat to find out how you can support and provide those resources. And I know for somebody like Jen, as a teacher that has 75 students, that can be a lot every week. It may not be possible to do that every week. You may have to set up video chats with groups of 5 students at a time and their parents, or once every other week. But think, how am I making meaningful connections with each individual student, just as I would have if we were face-to-face? Remembering that our students didn't sign up for this. Their parents didn't sign up for this. They may be struggling with the technology and the learning resources and materials. So how we can support them is going to make a tremendous difference in how they feel about this experience and their learning as they move on. And then one last thing, let people know how to reach you. Are you going to be checking your email every day from 4 to 5? Are you going to be available by phone number, and maybe you don't want people to have your home phone number, so you use Remind Me or Text Now or whatever, but how they can reach you, make it very clear how they can reach you and when you will be checking those messages. The third thing I'd say about communication is about feedback. So we can give such great feedback in face-to-face classes as we talk about a whole group of assignments, or we do that quick formative assessment and say, gosh, nobody understands fractions in this way yet. I'm going to lecture a little bit more on that tomorrow. So providing that same kind of feedback is important. And remember, it's difficult to determine tone when you just see a few comments on a paper or an email announcement. So again, consider video announcements, consider general feedback on projects and assignments, even things like, hey guys, 20 out of 22 of you submitted the research paper. Great job, and super proud of you for doing that. The 2 of you that didn't, you know who you are, expect a phone call from me this week. And I want to give you some general feedback. Great job on the APA citation, but one of the things I noticed is, so consider some of those general feedbacks as well as specific robust feedback on individual assignments. I want to tell you, Rubristar is one of my favorite free sources to create rubrics. And in online classes, the best practice says to use rubrics, because rubrics obviously tell us exactly what the criteria is and what the different levels of mastery are. If you get a 5 in this category, you've mastered this level. A 4 means you've done this, a 3 and a 2 and a 1. And having rubrics ahead of completing assignments helps, especially our older students, we're probably talking junior high and high school here, really helps them know what to focus on, what's important in the project that they're completing. The next thing that I would say about communication is to Be very clear and direct in your expectations. There's a great research article who was actually turned into a book by Joel English, and it's called Succeeding as an Online Learner. And he looks at the basic skills that students need to be successful in an online environment. And you may think of this as, rather than online environment, like a home-based learning environment. Obviously, parents are not responsible for homeschooling their students, but for utilizing the resources that are being provided to them. But Joel's research found the #1 thing that students need to be successful in an online environment is good time management skills. And man, that takes a while to develop, even in adult or college level students. So how can we help our students develop the time management skills that they're going to need to be successful in this environment? One way we can do that is to break all projects down into smaller units. To every week, give a very detailed and precise outline of what they are doing that week. I set my online courses up as weeks. So week 8, this day, this module. And then I give a very detailed list of what you're going to be doing. #1, you're going to be watching this video. It's 3 minutes and 29 seconds. #2, you're going to be reading this chapter in this book. It's 21 pages. And if you can tell them how long it's going to take them, it's going to take you approximately 60 minutes to read this chapter. #3, I want you to watch this video. It's this long, and this is what you're going to do. So be very precise in your expectations for the week. And any resources that you can directly link into that week is so much better. So for example, we know that most of our publishers have opened up all of their content for us to use for free. So if you can link the digital book right into your weekly example, all the better. If you are going to have them do a research paper, the Gale resources are now completely free for all of us to use. Of course, obviously Gale is that database of library resources and articles and research. If you can link that right into that week and say, you're going to be doing an article review on this topic, here's a link to Gale, pick an article that you're going to find in this way. So the more precise direction you can give them, the more likely you are your students are going to be successful, and you're going to be setting them up for success by helping develop those time management skills and those connections throughout the week to ensure that they're on track. And then communicate. And you're like, weren't the last 4 slides about that? Yes, they were, but this is the way that we create meaning one-on-one with our students. So in the college environment, we have office hours. If you're teaching online courses, you have online office hours. We don't really need office hours in K-12 because we see our students every single day, and we have parent-teachers conferences, and we do those things. Consider doing weekly office hours or weekly times that you are available for parents to log in and get help, for students to log in and get help, time that you are there to help one-on-one with the students. There are so many great tools you can use. For example, Google Hangouts. You could do Google Meet. You could use Zoom, which is a free resource. We use Zoom at my university, and we have the paid version, so it has all of these extra fantastic tools. You could use Skype. There's so many ways that you can use this, but this is what I do. I do 4 hours a week. And you can see the picture up in the top left-hand side. I open up my Zoom account, I turn my mute on, and I put it in the corner. And whenever students pop in, I get a notification that somebody's in my classroom, like somebody knocked on my door. I open it up, stop what I'm doing, and then students can share their screen with me. I can share my screen with them. I can do a mini lecture, whatever, but there's an opportunity to connect. Now, I want to say this. You're going to have students that will never connect with you and parents that will never connect with you that you probably really need to. So how can we set up incentives to get students to come and see us live? Obviously, you can require it. You can say, if your students have access to technology, remembering they didn't sign up to this, many won't, you can require everyone to come to 1 Zoom office hours a week or pop in once a week and let you know how they're doing. You could, if you see the picture below my Zoom account, I like to do online office hour bingo. So whatever the content is for that week, I'll create bingo cards, and anybody who shows up, I shoot those bingo cards out through our learning management system. You could have those available in your Google Classroom or email them or whatever. And then I'll play bingo with the terms, but before somebody can use the term, somebody has to define it. So if we're talking about time management techniques, I might say, what does it mean to spend 80% of my time in quadrant 2? And then the student has to say, oh, you're talking about Covey's 4 quadrants, and those are things that are important but not urgent. And then people can do it, and then I send pencils or whatever. Another thing that you can consider doing is using resources that come with whatever publisher's content you're using. So for example, you can see a picture of this video right here. This is from a National Geographic Learning, which of course is all free to us now. And they have all of these really amazing assets like these fantastic videos. So maybe you're having your students watch the video and complete a worksheet on their own, but you could say during my office hours, we can do it together. So if you parents need a break, send your kid to these online office hours and we'll do this activity together. But they're engaging and exciting and robust, and you're making still those really meaningful one-on-one connections. Jen does some neat things with her students as she continues to focus in her kind of online office hour times for her students. Jen, do you want to share some of the ideas that you have been using to try and connect with your students?
Every Monday, I try to follow that schedule like you were talking about. That's key, is a schedule and then knowing what to expect from you. So like every Monday, I try to post a video of myself from Google Meet and tells them exactly what I want them to be focusing on for the week. And then throughout the week, later in the week, I'll set another time that they can actually meet me on Google Hangout as a class. I post a time, and if you're able to join in, and if you're not able to join in, then I just record the session and post it in our Google Classroom.
Great.
So the kids, even if they can't join, it's still there for them to access.
Oh, that's so fantastic. How do you use these kind of icebreaker activities?
One of the things I found with my kids is, especially at the 6th grade level, is the buy-in. And so I even brought my sons that are 14 and 16 and said, hey, as a high schooler, what would you want to do? And what I'm realizing is that they're all really missing the social piece, the social emotional piece, and interacting with their peers. So I kind of set like this Thursday, I'm having bring your pet day, bring your pet, say hi to your pet, and then I try to sneak in, my academic pieces that I want to get through also in that week time.
Great. Well, and if we think how important in junior high and high school, even in elementary school, those like dress up days are, or wear your pajamas, or crazy hair day, those are ways that we continue to build those real connections. And if you're going to be doing live synchronous sessions, this is a great way to kind of incorporate all of that in there. Messy hair day, or bring a family member in front of the camera and introduce somebody that we might not know as a classroom, a way to build that community. Thanks, Jen.
Yes.
So the last thing I want to say about communicate, the 6th point, is that we have to really prioritize what we're going to be able to do. So if you had students for 100 minutes a day, you may actually only be able to give 30 minutes of content in that week. And Jen was sharing with me earlier how her district provided guidelines that said, here's the specific standards that we are going to be focusing on, whether they're going to be assessed or not. These are the standards we want you to focus on for the rest of the semester, for the rest of the academic year. And we want you to use no more than 30 minutes a week of activities and homework. So when that's what you have, we really have to prioritize. We can't cover everything we were going to cover. We can't do it in the same way we were going to do, but to really prioritize. And that helps us keep our expectations reasonable. What can we achieve? What do we need to achieve? If in K through 6 for our English as a second language students, it's literacy and math, that's what we're really focusing on. If it's the major research paper and for our senior students as they're getting ready to go to college, that's what we're really focusing on, the big picture. And I like to call these the gold nuggets. If I was panning for gold, I would keep all the gold nuggets. If I got some silver in there, it's good, not quite as valuable, sure would still love to have it. And the bronze nuggets are just those, little extras, the Starbucks coffee, if you will. So in this environment, we have to focus on the gold nuggets. What are the big picture? What am I going to focus on? I don't want to overwhelm my parents or my students, but I still want to focus on the gold nuggets, those standards. So one of the first questions, so after we get through communicating, how we're going to communicate, what we're going to do, how we're going to help our students stay engaged, how we are going to make sure they know the expectations. Now we have to look at how are we going to deliver the content. Are we going to do it synchronously, or are we going to do it asynchronously? Or like most people, are we going to use a combination of both? There was a fantastic article. I highly suggest you go look at it. It's called Teaching Effectively During Times of Disruption. It actually came out from 2 faculty members at Stanford University. And they did this whole, I think it's about a 20-page document on how to teach effectively online. But right at the beginning, they have several pages about the advantages and disadvantages of synchronous versus asynchronous methods. Obviously, synchronous methods are those education that occur live, or engaged, or responsive. However, in the online environment, it's time consuming. There's concerns over who has technology and who doesn't, and for your younger students, who's going to assist them. Asynchronous learning, obviously, is education that happens independently. It doesn't mean that the students develop the learning experiences. It means they experience them independently. They choose when and where to access the course. There's still deadlines. There may still be synchronous sessions. It's flexible. You can review the material over and over again, like Jennifer was just sharing. When she has a synchronous session, she records it so those students that don't have technology can watch it when they need. You know, one of the disadvantages is we don't have that real-time instruction. We don't have the ability to adjust our teaching or our content to the needs of the learner. So I want to talk about some tools to do both synchronous and asynchronous learning in our classes. So let's start with synchronous lectures or sections. Here's some free tools. Now, once again, you likely have something your district has prescribed that they want you to use. Google or Canvas or Schoology, whatever it is, use that and use it significantly throughout your semester. I love Zoom. At my university, we use Blackboard. So I have all of these great tools in Blackboard, a learning path to help my students stay focused. I have assessments built in. I have a gradebook tool. I have attendance tools. I have accessibility tools. I have Blackboard Collaborate, all of these. So whichever learning management system you're using, use that and use it consistently. I am doing all my synchronous lectures on Zoom. I love Zoom. It's easy to use. It's engaging. The free version, you can have 40-minute sessions, up to 100 people, unlimited number of sessions. But I find it easy to use. I'll show you how to use it in a second. But these are just video conferencing tools. Many of these, you can record your lectures if you do it. Obviously, you need a computer, a microphone, a camera, and a speaker. Students can join via a telephone. So if they don't have a computer, they are able to call in and listen to the lecture, and that's a great advantage. 2 suggestions: have an agenda, know exactly what you're going to do so you stay on track, and use presentation materials that you give students ahead of time so that they can focus and follow during your lectures. This is Zoom if you've never used it, zoom.us. Once again, it's free. You can download the Chrome extension and have it put like right in your Gmail account, so it's real easy to click on a button and say, make it a Zoom meeting, and then send that link out to your students or the telephone number. Super easy to do it. If you have the paid version, you get a bunch of these extra great tools, like you can put students in breakout rooms. So in a face-to-face class, you might do a think, pair, share, square, right? So you say, you're in an intro to business class in high school, and you say, what are the 4 functions of business, or the 4 parts of business, and write these down in your notes. And students stop and they write in your notes. And you say, all right, now pair with the person beside you. Did they get the same 4 you did? Decide which 4 are correct. All right, now pair with another pair, square, and see if all 4 of you got it. Now, which groups want to share, right? That way we make sure everybody's included. You can do these same kind of things in whatever collaborative tool you're using. So you can have breakout rooms if you have the paid version of Zoom. But of course, there's other tools that you can use that have breakout rooms built in. You can record, you can do all of those kinds of things. Here is one thing I want to say. When you're doing synchronous sessions, it is very easy in an online environment to lose your students. They turn their cameras off. Pretty soon you reach out and say, Joe, what did you think about that? And it takes Joe 5 minutes to get back to you. You know, Joe probably was playing video games or texting somebody on his phone. So I really encourage you to think of what you want students to do while they are listening to a live lecture, if they're not going to be engaging and interacting in small groups. Now, for those of you that are saying, I'm already feeling overwhelmed, pretend you don't even see this next slide. For those of you that are saying, yeah, that makes sense, I'm willing to learn a couple new technologies, then I'm going to give you 3 different ideas. But I do want to say this. This is not about learning 50 new technologies in the next month to try and engage your students. It's about picking something that you already know and then maybe adding 1 or 2 digital tools to assist what your students are doing. So Jen, I know you use Kahoot. Can you share this tool with us?
Yes, you can take any content area, any subject that you want to teach, and set up a Kahoot with your students. You can do that live. They can play as individuals or as teams, but obviously during this time period, they'd be playing as individuals. And based on the content and questions, participate, and everybody will be able to see the screen. It's kind of like a quiz or whatever you want them to master from the subject area, and puts it in a real fun game format.
Great. And you know, our students are gamers today. You can do this synchronously or asynchronously. I've actually taught entire lectures this way, where I take the 10 key points from the chapter or the lecture and I put them each up as a quiz question. I also like Kahoot because it is ADA compliant. So it uses colors, it uses shapes. So especially for our English as a second language students, this is really a fantastic tool to engage them. Let me tell you 2 other quick ones. One is polleverywhere.com. By the way, if you're using Zoom and you have the paid version, there is a polling feature in there. This is a different one. This is free. Students text in their answers. So in a lecture, you can stop, embed a poll everywhere question. Students text in their answer. You can see at the bottom left-hand side of my screen, I said, how do you want them to send it in? Do you want them each to type a reply? Do you want that to show up as word bubbles? Do you want a chart created? But you can see, are students with me? Should I move on to the next topic? Or use some of that formative assessment to say, I want to focus more. I also want to mention Flipgrid. I'm sharing this tool with you. It's a little bit more complex to use, but I want to share it with you because actually the American Association of Libraries rated it the best app and the best website, and EdTech Digest rated it the coolest tech tool award. So, not that we use technology for the bells and whistles. We don't. We use it for how is it going to impact our students' learning. But sometimes if we can engage our students with a cool tool, they're more likely to be involved. So basically, what this is a social learning platform. You post a question. I was in a conference and they did this. They posted a question. Everyone pulled out their phone. They recorded a quick video of themselves answering that question. You hit enter, it shoots it up to the site, and then the instructor or teacher can pick a couple to flips to show live different students answering the question. So it gives students a chance to not be on the spot, like in class if you called them out, to really think for a minute, to record a quick video, to shoot it up via their phone. It goes right to this website and you can share it. So it is kind of a cool, fun tool to use. Maybe not every synchronous lecture, but every now and then. All right. Asynchronous, what can we do? So we've decided my students don't have consistent access to internet or they're younger. What are some tools to deliver the content to the student? So let me give you some easy tools and then I'm going to show you how to record some of your own lectures. So a very easy one is just to pull up PowerPoint slides, type out, annotate them, and share them with your students on your Google Classroom or in Canvas or whatever your learning management system is. Another one is just to write out the gold nuggets, the key points of that lecture. And maybe with that, you have page numbers for the textbook if they were bringing their textbook home, or where they can find it in their digital textbook. I know for a lot of our younger students, we're doing course packets with worksheets. So teachers are putting course packets together, they're sending those course packets home, and they're having parents work with their children on these course packets. Remember, communication is the key. Which pages should they be working on? How long should they be working? What are they doing? And if you say they should be doing this for 30 minutes, and when you reach out to the parent, they say it's taking them 2 hours, then you know we need some intervention. I need to do something to help the student. They shouldn't be spending 2 hours on this packet. Also, I really want to encourage you to use what is already created. It takes a lot of time to invent the wheel. to reinvent the wheel, to come up with your own lectures, great assessment strategies, activities that they're going to be doing. What has already been created that you can snag and use? So for example, there's a great channel on YouTube called TeacherTube. If you've ever been on there, you can see a picture of it on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. You click on your discipline area, and there are thousands and thousands of videos that other teachers have uploaded on topics. You can go into, I use all the time TED Talks. So I go in and pull great TED Talks about topics, and I have students watch those TED Talks. Up in the right-hand corner, if you teach at upper level, for example, math or chemistry course or something along those lines, we have all of these really phenomenal tools built into our publishers' resources. And once again, as a shout out to our publishers, they are providing these resources free to us and our students to use for the remainder of the school year. Like, what an amazing gift. This is an example actually of a calculus assignment. And when the students go in, they have these QR codes, and any place they need help, they hold their phone over and a video pops up of a teacher working a similar problem out, doing a mini lecture on how to estimate slope or find the slope of a graph or what have you. So by utilizing these tools, I don't have to recreate the wheel myself. This is actually a Ron Larson book. But it's just fantastic because all of these videos are already created for me. I don't have to recreate the educational wheel to get this content to my students. Speaking of which, we just have to give a huge shout out to our publishers. Cengage is doing amazing things for us in K-12 with their National Geographic learning and really having the ability to leverage our publishers' content with these platforms with ready-to-use support and distribute their platforms to our students is really fantastic. Jen, I know because you teach literacy and some of these things, a lot of these resources are really great. Can you just really quickly share what we're seeing here?
Yes, one of the things I feel like teachers are panicked about right now is finding resources that they can utilize online, and we're scrambling to get everything, all the pieces and parts that we used to use in our classroom. And with publishers opening this up, this is just a tool that I looked at specifically that really focuses on literacy, because most districts are moving towards a literacy approach and keeping reading going and focusing on mathematics. And so what I really like is it's kind of all in one place. You're able to focus on math and literacy. And it also, with the National Geographic, my favorite thing is it embeds social studies and science into the literacy approach in reading. So with awesome videos and assessments that are available for teachers to use all in one place.
Great. I know Jen's going to share a couple of specific resources a little bit later, but I think one of the key things is we don't have the time to reinvent the wheel. If I had known for 6 months that I was taking my calculus course online, I'd have time to create some of these resources. I don't, so I want to use solid resources that are vetted, that follow the standards that I know my students are going to be assessed on, and really great content. And this is what these resources allow us to do, use these pieces. All right, let's say you do want to create some videos, either videos for connection or videos to deliver content. Obviously, you can do live sessions and you can just record it. There are so many great tools. Don't be overwhelmed by this slide. These are just a bunch of free ways that you can do screen capture to record lectures. I just want you to pick one that you think you could use. And I'm going to demonstrate how to use one of these. I'll tell you, ScreenChomp is a really great one for that K-3 group. It's a free app. It's a whiteboard. You can take a picture like of a math problem, and then the students hit the record button. They write it, they do the problem, and then they can send it directly to their teacher, to their ScreenChomp app, and then the teacher can review it. And if the student's having problems, they can record over it and tell them what they did wrong. When I was traveling a lot for my job, my children, when they were younger, used to always send me ScreenChomps when they were having trouble with their homework assignments. I'm going to show you how to use Screencast-O-Matic. It's free. Super, super easy to use and very intuitive. And remember, we don't want to spend a lot of time learning new technology. We want to focus on the content. So at the bottom of your screen, I put a link to the beginner's guide. So you can go into that beginner's guide and it walks you through if you like visual pictures. This is just a PowerPoint. I'm not taking you live through this. But here's how you do it. You go to the website. It's called screencast-o-matic.com, and you sign up for a free account. That's that orange button you see at the top right-hand side. On the left-hand side, you click the orange button that says Launch the Free Recorder. Then you get to number 3, and it says, do you want to open the recorder? And you say yes. What I then do is I pull a PowerPoint presentation up that I want to record. Sometimes I show my picture. You can. You don't have to. It can just be your voice, whatever you want. I had to do a presentation on utilization of social media in a public relations course that I was teaching. So I just pulled up my publisher's PowerPoint presentation that came with the textbook. I hit launch the screen recorder, and you see I get that box that I can resize any size on my screen. Anything that is on my screen that I'm showing is now being recorded. So if I jump out to a YouTube video, if I open a digital textbook, all of that's on there. So I resize my screen. You can see I get this little black box, and it says, do you want to show your webcam? Do you just want to show your screen, or do you want to show both? I hit both, and then you click that record button. Now, with the free version, your lecture can only be 15 minutes long, which is best practice anyway. But just so you know, you can purchase Screencast-O-Matic. It costs about $1.67 a month. So it's not terribly expensive. If you want the paid version, you get a bunch of other cool features like video editing, and it will do the speech to text captioning, which is great. If you don't do that, I suggest that you upload any videos you create to a private YouTube channel, which will close caption those and then put those in your learning management system. So anyways, you hit the record button. Once you do that, you start talking, yada, yada, yada. You can see me in the bottom. It's recording. It tells me it's recording. It tells me how long of my 15 minutes that I've used. When I'm done recording, picture number 6 up here, it says, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to save it? Like to your desktop? Do you want to just share it directly to somebody? Or do you want to edit it? I clicked save, and it said, okay, how do you want to save it? As a video file to your desktop, to the Screencast-O-Matic website, or do you want to automatically upload it to a YouTube channel so it will be closed caption? I said save it to Screencast-O-Matic. That's picture number 8. Gave it a name, published it, and it was done. It gives me a link right there that I can put in my learning management system or send directly out to my students. Just so you know, this is what students see. When they click on that link, it just pulls the video right up, and then you're talking and whatnot in the video, going through whatever your content is. Mine was on social media, whatever your content would be. And then when you go to the Screencast-O-Matic site, you can see it shows you all of your uploads, all the videos you've created. It gives you a little teeny bit of analytic information, not much. So for example, I recorded chapter number 6 last week for my students. I have 18 students in the class. I had 20 views. You can see that. So I know that likely every student in the class watched the video, and some of them watched it twice, which is a benefit of asynchronous recordings. A couple quick best practices. If you are going to make videos, keep them short. Research says anything over 6 minutes will not be watched the whole way. I had a group of students that I did a video. It was 32 minutes long. I went and looked at the analytics for it, and I had only 4 students that watched the entire video. Even though every student got on, it dramatically dropped off after the 12-minute mark. So really consider, can I do more videos that are shorter than one really long video? Plan ahead of time. Use a microphone if you have it. You get better sound quality. Talk slowly. I know I could take my own advice there. If you talk slowly, your closed captioning will work better. Just keep that in mind. Make sure your laptop is level. Kind of novice mistake is setting the laptop on your lap, because then everybody's looking up your nose the whole time, or in my case, at my double chin. And then, don't worry about perfection. Just as you would not worry about perfection in a face-to-face lecture, don't worry about perfections. You're gonna have ums and ahs and where were we again? And I know I went off on a rabbit trail there, but I just love this content so much. And then, of course, consider if you're not using a program that closed captions, consider uploading it. Now, you don't have to use Screencast-O-Matic. You could use Jing or whatever your district wants to. There's great tools in the Google Classroom, so you could use Google Meet. You could use any of those tools. I'm not recommending one over the other, but their videos add so much value to a personal classroom environment. Okay, what are your students going to do when they're watching your video? Much like a synchronous session, consider giving your students something to do if you want them to watch it. Students don't often do optional, just like we don't, right? We're busy, and if something is due on the 31st, we're probably working on it on the 30th, right? So what is it that you want students to do as they're watching this video? Are you going to give them a list of terminology to listen to during the video and write out? Are you going to create a little worksheet for them? Or better yet, is there something already created in your publisher's resources that you can snag and download for them to use? Are you going to use a free resource like Padlet? Or maybe that is the learning management system that your district is using. So could you upload something to Padlet, or you want them to comment on the video in Padlet afterwards? You can set privacy settings on that as well. So consider, if I'm going to take the time to make a video and I want students to watch it, what might I want to connect to that video so I'm sure that they're going to watch it? All right, we talked about communication. We talked about synchronous and asynchronous learning activities, and I want to wrap up and talk about kind of assessment activities. How am I going to know if my students are learning what they're supposed to be learning, and what activities do they need to do to practice the learning skills? Because again, and I heard this analogy and I love this one. The analogy said, if you were a gym teacher and you were preparing your students for the presidential physical fitness test, you would not drop to the ground and do 20 push-ups and then jump up and go, feeling stronger? More ready for the test? Oh, wait, you're not? Okay, well, watch me do 20 more. And sometimes in online learning, it becomes very easy to do all the push-ups for your students, to do all the lectures and give all the content and summarize all the reading. And then your students aren't doing any of the push-ups. So the learning is not becoming theirs. We learn and retain very little of what other people tell us. We learn and retain most when we get to practice and apply, or better yet, and the angels sing, we get to teach other people. So what am I going to do to have my students do the push-up in the course? Then let me be the coach, guiding and directing. Here's how you do a push-up right. Get your elbows in. Don't put your booty so high in the air. Whatever it is, I want to be the guide and the coach in these activities, not doing the work for them. So whatever activities you choose, be very clear in what the students are going to do. For example, this is a video in my course. I told them exactly what they're going to do. You are going to be watching this video, click here. I downloaded it so they didn't have to go outside the course and get lost in YouTube. As you are watching this video, I want you to be thinking of these 4 questions, because you are going to be writing a 2-page overview answering these 4 questions, and you're going to be uploading it to this link. Be clear, be precise, and remind, remind, remind. I think when we look at our students in high school, we think at some point you have to become completely responsible for your own learning, and true, that is. But this is a different, unfamiliar learning environment, and I consistently offer grace rather than justice to my students in this environment. The more opportunities I can have to give undeserved mercy, to remind, to support, to encourage, my goal is that the learning happens. If I have to give a little extra incentive and direction in this environment, we're willing to do that. All right, here's an example of a way you could adjust an activity. So if you were going to do an oral presentation, that was going to be a major assessment. How can we adjust that to an online environment? I could still have students do oral presentations. They could just do them via Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. So I could really do the same thing digitally. I could have students annotate their PowerPoint slides or use Screencast-O-Matic, free to them too, and do their presentations and then upload it. I could have students do their presentations to their parent and have their parent give them one piece of feedback from when they did the presentation and share it in a chat in the classroom. Did my presentation for my parent, this is the feedback that they gave me. I could have a chat and have students lead a discussion on the topic they were going to do their presentation for. I could say, not going to do the presentation, too difficult. Don't want to stress them out? You're writing the paper instead. So there's so many different ways that I could adjust this activity for this learning environment to still focus on the same standard the same content. Chat features are great. This is another way to do your authentic assessment. I know there's chat features in your Google Classroom. Some people use this kind of as an announcement. In Canvas, there's chat features, lots of ways to use chat. If you're going to use the chat feature, really consider the question that you are posing to your students. So let's say it's a high school literacy a class, and they just got done reading a book. You might ask a question like, everybody just read about the fall of Mordor last week. Can you summarize the effects of teamwork on their success? So really thinking of those kind of higher end Bloom's taxonomy evaluation and synthesis level thinking in your chat questions. For your younger students, you can still do chats. They love that connection, and focus on something else. We learned about addition this week, and 2 plus 2. Can somebody give me an example of 2 things you could add together that would equal 4? And have people put answers, and then comment and encourage and teach each other, learning and retain. You can certainly do other things like bring in guest speakers or put your students in small chat groups to answer these kinds of things. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the activities and assessments that are already created for us, that I do not have to reinvent the wheel. And much like Jen said earlier, it's a time issue, and it is an issue of having authentic, real learning. So once again, our publishers and so many organizations have stepped up and said, we want you to have all of our resources, take them. For your students, for you, the educator, we want you to have them, and we want you to use them so that the most valuable resource that we have in the world, our human resources, our children, can continue their learning process. So Jen's going to share with us 5 different learning resources, activities, and assessments that you might consider using in your K-12 courses.
Yes, what I really like is the literacy approach that National Geographic gives us, in that there's videos available. There is a whole slew of resources that you can integrate into your teaching that's all right there for you. And I think our goal is to get through this last quarter with not having any gaps in learning. And so getting kids mindful in reading and being able to assess them. And this is all just right there for you as a teacher, that you can embed into any one, whether it be like my district, Google Classroom. You know, I can post videos and assessments and all of those types of things from K-12. There's also extra opportunities in here for students that are ESL or ELL and need to see it in a different language and be assessed and hear the stories in a different language. So these are all just great things with great pictures and videos that can continue that authentic learning and reading, because that's really our goal as districts, is to keep kids reading and doing math. And then again, during reading, the interactive workbooks and the Mindtap, where you're reading and then you're analyzing, there's assessments available. So it's really truly testing kids' comprehension, taking a look at, after they've read, if they've understood what they read by answering questions, and just keeping track of, so kids could have an opportunity to respond on this. Looking at, again, you could, for example, read the interactive text, listen to the story, have it read to you, go over, choose from a menu of options that you can do, and then an assessment's already created for you. So again, our goal with math specifically.
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, okay. Again, looking at our math and everything that we want to do with math specifically, our goal is to not leave any gaps. We taught through the first 3 quarters. Now we're to the last quarter, and we do not want to leave that last quarter of gaps for students. So finding something that is going to create authentic learning and new content to not leave any gaps for when they're ready in the fall to go back to school, hopefully, and begin learning back in a regular classroom. Also, Quizlet is a great opportunity for you to, as a teacher, take whatever publisher that you're using, whatever content, go into Quizlet, form your quizzes. They even have a Quizlet Live that you can go in and play online together through Quizlet Live. I know my social studies teacher that I team with is currently meeting once a week online with his students to play Quizlet Live to do science and social studies with his students. TeacherTube, again, another great resource. You can go in, pull audio, videos, teaching, just not leaving any gaps. That's our goal, is to make it through this last quarter without having any gaps in learning.
Excellent. Well, and if you saw on that one slide when we talked about simulations, there is no way I could develop a simulation in 3 days' time. But when we look at, for example, our students that are career tech students, they need those simulations. All of those are created for them, and you can pull those right in to your course and use them out, and students can use them for free. So really looking at what is already created and what is really phenomenal that's already created, that me going in and creating a quick video could not begin to do justice to those kind of things. So in conclusion, how do we save the semester and positively impact our student learning? We have to communicate, look at the priorities that our district sets for us. What are the standards that we're going to continue to focus on? Be realistic in our expectations, what students can do at home, what they can do given the resources that they have. Consider how can we adjust to be able to assess that learning? How can we use the things that we have? And I think most importantly, be kind to ourselves and to our students during this process. Like Jen said, our goal is authentic learning, to not leave any gaps for our students as they go into their next grade levels or go into the world if they're seniors, and really say we hit these key things. And the most important things that I taught my student is perseverance, how to persevere, resiliency in this kind of situation. Things happen. How do we work together as a team to continue to support our students? So if you feel maybe like you're jumping from this very small bowl of face-to-face classroom instruction into this gigantic bowl of digital learning and online learning resources, we all feel that way. Even those of us that are teaching online every day, that are trying to quickly put it up there, we are all in this bowl together, right? The world is in this pandemic together right now. And there are so many phenomenal resources to help us be the best teachers that we can be during this time. Andy Rooney said, when most of us die, we will be lucky to have 3 people that ever even remembered we lived 5 years after our death, with the exception of teachers, who will have thousands of people who you've changed your life forever. Like, what a gift it is to get to be a teacher. Even in this situation, to get to show our students how to persevere, how to be resilient, how to focus on what really matters in the world, being good global citizens, and these key areas. You are changing lives as a teacher. We wish you all the best of luck. Jen and I continue to learn how to be the kinds of teachers that our students deserve. And we salute you and encourage you during this time. We hope you got some great resources to use in your classroom. I listed some resources here. If you look on the same site that you likely found this webinar on, you will be able to the ngl.cengage.com/COVID-19. You'll be able to see there's actually a PDF of this PowerPoint presentation. please feel free to use it and share it. These are some of my favorite resources that I go to. The Vanderbilt University Center for Teaching is phenomenal. They're always posting the most amazing articles and videos. And there's all sorts of really great resources here for you. We wish you the best of luck, and thank you for continuing the most important job in the world.